Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
First world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
And now for something completely different.
And welcome back to another episode of Reality and Publishing Comics with me, Paul Gomez. This week, we're going to really talk a little bit about digital marketing, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and a little bit of campaigning, if you will. But mainly, I've got a great guest that's coming in, and I'd like to go ahead and pull him in right now. Timothy B. Fling. Yeah, I think I mispronounced that last name. It's Fling?
Correct, sir.
Okay. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me, Paul. I'm familiar with your work, and I'm excited to meet you.
Thank you. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I know we've talked in passing or here and there through some of the other programs, but it's really great to have you on the show so we can actually get into it a little bit more.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
So how have you been? How is Comics World treating you? What's new?
I've been really lucky the beginning of this year. And as you know, I'm mostly what they call a Kickstarter creator. It's a crowdfunding platform. And we're getting ready to do our 7th one here. It's going to launch in March. And I'm trying something new. I'm mostly known for, I'm a comic book publisher. I sort of became a publisher accidentally, but really I'm a writer by my trade. And in my case, I focus on science fiction series. My biggest series, I guess you'd say the most popular one, is the one you see behind me. It's an ongoing title called Water Wars 2288, post-apocalyptic science fiction with a female protagonist. Right. Well, we got a new one coming out, and this is it's a cryptid-based story, and it's also the first one that is what I call part of a longer arc. Most of my stories are I'm a short story writer by trade. So all of my issues have a complete story in that book.
Right.
You don't have to go back and read 2 to understand 3, that kind of thing. There's just a story in each one. But the new book, it's the first time that I've tried this. It ends on a cliffhanger. And the idea is we're going to test out, will people come back for number 2, for number 3? It's slated, if it's successful, if the comic book gods are with me, it'll go for 4 issues. It's slated to be 96 pages plus bonus content.
Now, that's awesome. Now, I mean, I'm very intrigued, especially, talking to writers, because I'm pretty new. I mean, I just started a year ago. So whenever I decided what I was going to do is I decided I was going to do a few different titles because I wanted to show my range.
Yeah.
And you either get people who do a few titles or you get people who are focused on one title.
Correct.
And so what I did originally was my first book that I started writing with was Bushibu. It was going to be a 12-issue series for that, and that's definitely what I'm aiming for. But my second story that I wrote in the first book that came out, which was PTSD, was a one-shot, a 22-page one-shot. And that really was to see if I could do it, because a lot of writers say that's hard to do.
Well, yeah, and you bring up a great point, and I'll tell you in my limited experience, and I'm kind of new too. I don't know if you knew this, but I just started really. My first Kickstarter was it's 2 years ago. Well, it's like 2 years and 2 months ago. Yeah, so pretty new. Yeah. But I did something different in the sense that, how do I want to say this? A lot of us tend to say things like, hey, I got this 12-issue series. And it's very hard to do that. And it's also very hard to get a reader to engage with it. Right. So what I sometimes tell folks that are starting out, because I sometimes try to help new creators now. Yeah. I always say, man, start small. Yeah. Do an 8-pager and finish it and maybe submit it to an anthology. Then go to a 16-pager. Then go to a 24. Because I've noticed that the guys who, if they had these big plans, as you and I know, in publishing, things happen. And man, the artist gets a divorce, the letterer moves away. Like there's interruptions and things that you can't.
And the thing about it is, like, most new creators don't realize the cost going in.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know. I really didn't know. Yeah.
And we do something that's a little, maybe I'd call it my best practice, which is when I make the books, I pay everybody up front out of my pocket. Yes. And then I reimburse it out of the Kickstarter. Yeah. So, I was telling Pops, I have too much anxiety to say, well, you guys all got to wait to get paid to see how the Kickstarter does, because Kickstarters go up and down, Yeah. And, as far as for me, I did my first 2. Well, in the old days, when I first started writing, I had worked with a publisher, and like I say, I was originally a short story writer, and I never did too well with writing short stories, to be honest with you. And that's a different path, right? Like you submit to magazines and you try to get anthologies. But then a couple of friends of mine said something like, hey, well, you ought to try having some of these illustrated, right? Like a graphic novel. And I worked with a company called CAE, that's Martin Dunn, and they had a thing they called the bullpen. And what the bullpen did, they would sit down with you, and if you had like a script, they would help you flesh it out into a comic book. And they were a great group of guys to work with, and that's how I made the first one. But now that was before I knew about Kickstarter, you see. So that was a robot comedy called Socket, and there's 3 issues of that, and it was a little bit like it's kind of along the lines of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or slightly more humorous version of the Transformers. And I learned a lot, and it's really how I learned to make comics. But like my first series, I guess it's okay to say this now, I wasn't that good yet. So it didn't do as well as I hoped, right? And then as I improved, I started to get into the next couple series, which the first one was this Water Wars book, which is the one you see behind me right here. And almost right away, that one started performing and doing well. And what I did in those days, you would just make the books and you would take them to conventions. Right. In my case, that's Baltimore. And you would try and get people to notice it. I was giving it. Yeah. And from then on, I started making Kickstarters. And each one has been, sort of leveling up. And I'm very grateful to everybody that I worked with. Like I say, I'm kind of new still. So I think it's number 7, or maybe it's number 6 we're getting ready to do here. But enough. Thank God I've never had one that didn't fund. But, I'd say I'm still learning it, right? So there's always ways to grow and to improve. And now I'm trying to reach the indie community a little bit by, first of all, man, thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. I knew about you. And so I've started doing my show over on YouTube. And, and my hope is that, we'll have you come over there too.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. So, but what I do is I try to promote indie creators, and I ask them some questions and stuff like that. And we try to hopefully get them a couple customers.
Right. Yeah, and that's really one of the key things whenever you're going on a show, is to kind of reach a little bit bigger of an audience that you don't normally get to. With this show, I originally made it because I wanted to, give creators a little tip so they didn't hit all the problems that I hit. Because,
right.
There's so many of them out there that I didn't know about. Whenever I first started, I tell everybody this, the first thing I did was I went and got an editor. And thankfully, I got this editor who was so amazing. He was an Eisner Award-winning editor, and he started showing me how to do things instead of just doing them and telling me what I did wrong, fixing. He would tell me how to learn how to fix it.
Do you mind if I ask who's the editor? Maybe I know him.
I'll tell you off the line,
okay.
But
okay.
Yeah, it was one of those things that he deals with a lot of big name people in the industry today. I mean, like top tier people.
Gotcha.
So he started teaching me what to look for and what to do and how to write it, and not doing it for me. He was teaching me how to do it and how to see things. Yeah. So it's like I got lucky in that aspect, but I still hit a lot of problems. And, I was watching these YouTube shows of how to create books and stuff, and they weren't exactly hitting some of the problems that I was getting to. So I wanted to do my own show to kind of like talk about these things. So other
great
people
idea.
Yeah. And I love having guests on because I don't want to give people my opinion and say, this is the only way it is. I want other people who are in the industry to kind of chime in and see, if they're dealing with the same problems, well,
Paul, I can tell you, I appreciate that. And I'm going to be a terrific guest for you because I have done about every wrong thing that you can do, not because I'm so great at everything I'm doing. And like I say, I didn't know when I started. Now there are classes and things nowadays that you can take, but when I started, there weren't those kind of things. And either that or I didn't know about them. It even took me a year to learn about Kickstarter before I even knew that was a thing. Yeah. And I would say that the most challenging one for me is the shipping and logistics of fulfillment. And hey, there's my buddy Doc. What's up, Doc?
Yeah.
So, I have a little bit of a business background and a little bit of sales background. So I came by that kind of naturally. But when it came to fulfillment, this is something that a lot of creators struggle with. And then, of course, as you start to see your numbers go up, that puzzle gets harder and harder.
Right.
And of course, we're actually doing some international quite a bit now.
Yeah.
So it's almost to which I'm grateful for that.
Right.
I'm sound grateful, but it continues to be a
more difficult
challenge. Yeah. And like Australia is just a nightmare to get stuff in there, and Canada too. I'd love to hear more tips from anybody that's got.
I got to tell you. So one of the best things that I've done, and I haven't really taken advantage of it because I hadn't hit a Kickstarter with it. I signed on with ASAP in Imagination, which is based in the UK. Their editor-in-chief is in Canada, and they've got some fulfillment going on in Australia as well. So whenever I hit that next Kickstarter, I'm going to be able to send them the package, and then they'll be able to distribute it out.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, I was glad that the opportunity came to sign with them because of that added benefit, because I know how it is. I haven't made anything international on my Kickstarters, but what I did have was I had about 10 backers on my last Kickstarter that were international, even though I put that it was an option, wasn't an option. But with having such great backers and being a new creator, you want to fulfill and you want to give them. So I fulfilled it, but it was such new territory, and I had heard how difficult it was, and it really was.
It is. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple of for instances, like, and by the way, they're ones that I never thought I would do well with. And I always tell my backers and my viewers, look, I'm as surprised by this as you are. Yeah. So, and it's all new to me. I never said, hey, I'm going to advertise in the Netherlands, which is somewhere I do well in, or I do okay in like Croatia and Serbia and stuff, which I'm not sure why that is, but hey, great. Because any customer, and I always try and give them a little extra too, because I'm already paying for the shipping to get it there. So, and the guy will say, well, if you get doubles, I say, look, give them to your friends, whatever. But one thing I might want to try, and I'd love to hear what people say about this, I'm now going to look into, because all of our files that are delivered to printers are relatively easy to send digitally. So I might try to hire a printer that's in Australia and in Canada and have them fulfill it from there. And my guess is that's going to, I mean, again, it's one more thing to try and remember, right? But when you talk about getting some of these Australia, I think it was $60 I paid to get the last. It's something ridiculous. So if I could, and by the way, I'm not saying I know this will work. You and I are talking about maybe potential solutions. If I had a printer that was in Canada or a printer that was in Croatia, let's say, I send them the digital files, they ship it out. I'm probably going to have a little upcharge for the printing and so forth, but the postage will probably be 1/10 of the cost.
Now, I've heard that there's one in Canada that's kind of like Comics Wellspring here, where they'll print it, fulfill it, ship it out for you. I haven't heard of any in overseas other than that, the one in Canada. But yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to look into, because getting into an international market is. I mean, it's so much of an advantage if you can reach out there.
Right. And our thing in this case was, the books do okay, but I started doing the trading cards, and what they are is they're chrome plated trading cards.
Oh,
and
awesome.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. They, like I was saying, they go to something like 19 countries now, the cards. Yeah. So, and again, I never planned that would do that well. Right. This is just a little add-on that you can get from the book. And honestly, I'm still surprised by it. So
no, I'm surprised by some of the add-ons or small things that you can add into a Kickstarter that builds such a full fanfare for your comics. And I tell new creators this, I'm like, don't overlook these small things. I mean, just because you think that they're a small thing, they might be a major thing. I know hats are a little more difficult than most t-shirts and hats, and I tell people, you have to be aware going in if you're going to deal with that problem of shipping a hat or a t-shirt. But whenever you're talking about smaller stuff like bookmarkers, cards, these stuff mean a lot to some people. I know this one person, he had bought back my my Cryptic Haze Kickstarter, and it was just because of the bookmarker.
No kidding.
And I was like, I'm glad I threw that in, and it was just a few cents to add on.
One of the things that we do, and I don't have a card right here with, well, actually I got, one of the things we do is the maps, and we do what they call a tactical map. And what they are is it's a chrome plated map.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And there's one for each book, you see, and they're like thematically tied together, sort of.
That's great.
And of course they have like what we call a little mini print on the back, which is
Yes, we do mini prints. I don't have anything on the back of mine, but yeah, mini prints are amazing.
Yeah, and that of course is I am a Comics Wellspring customer, and they take great care of me, so I'm very satisfied.
I've heard they do great with their customers. I've got a few printer people that kind of handle it on my end, and they do really well by me. So, but yeah, I mean it's definitely one of those, a creature of another, kind of going into Kickstarter and having to deal with the fulfillment, the shipping, the add-ons and stuff like that. But how do you advertise? I mean, do you just go on
Facebook? I'm glad you asked. The first thing is, and when I go into this, please don't hear Tim is an expert, because I'm very much learning it, and that's why I enjoy doing stuff like this. I got to be honest with you, Paul. I was excited to meet you. I was actually talking to Pops about this, and I guess you could say I'm kind of building my network of other people that. Right. I'm kind of old school, and what I mean by this is I like to develop relationships with the people and get to know them and talk to them, and I tend to do better that way. Right. And and I'm also, and I get this vibe from you too, you're kind of a positive guy, where my belief is that if you're putting positivity out, that's what you're going to get back, right? Yes. There's enough negativity in the world. I kind of don't want to be involved in that too much. Right. And I avoid all the political stuff. I avoid all the drama. And by the way, I respect what everybody's doing. Right. I just don't want to do that myself. So, I don't get any value from jumping into things and saying how this sucks or this is the worst. And I tend to plenty
of room.
And let's be honest. It's with the way the world is now, we can all benefit from a little bit more positive relationships and
helping my brother, help each other out. And that's,
and the truth is we're all in it together, and a rising tide lifts all boats. Exactly. So when I reach out for other creators, we do things like, well, let's tie this into your question, which is what type of advertising. The first thing is I do a small mailing list. And my email list is very small. You talk to some of these guys that have thousands and thousands of names. I'm not there yet. Okay. What I do is I compile the names from my Kickstarter and people that have backed me before, or people that have signed up at conventions, which I think mine is only like, it's only like 500 or 600 names, but they all tend to come back. When I say they all, a good portion of them come back for my Kickstarters. And my open rate, which, like I say, I was in this business a little bit, man, a half decent open rate. They say anything is 8 to 10%. I'm at probably a 35% open rate on my email list. Right. So people are actually reading it. And I also don't blanket bomb the people with lots of stuff. Right. Which that's a tough balance, right? Because you want to get your name out there. But what happens is, like anything else, you start getting too many, the people stop following you. Yeah,
they start ignoring it because they see it repetitiously. I understand, definitely.
Yeah. So the other thing that I do is, and I'm very active on Facebook. That's still my number one thing, and I'm in many of the groups. And that's kind of how I knew about you, because I see, you and I cross paths in the similar in similar ways. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and I tell you, I do not do well on Instagram. I know people do, but. And like I say, I don't want to get into anything negative, but I'm not sure my target customer is on Instagram. Like when you look at the kind of things that do well these days, it tends to be things like, let's be honest, it's females. And by the way, I love women. I appreciate a beautiful woman. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but like our books aren't anything like that. I don't have any like sexy content or anything like that. So it's not quite the match for me.
That's my best friend. It's okay.
Nice to see you, Jeff. But then I do Twitter, and I don't do that well on Twitter either, but I at least try it. And then the newest thing is I started up this YouTube channel, and the idea behind the YouTube channel is, number one, it has one main component, which is other creators have been really nice to me, and There's a couple of guys. Do you know Travis Gibb by any chance?
I've talked to him maybe once, really briefly. I'm really looking forward to talking to him if I ever get an opportunity
A
again.
hell of a good guy.
Yeah.
A hell of a good guy. And one of the things that he does, and he'll be the first to say this. He was actually online today saying, "Hey, I'm not a podcaster, this and that." But what he does is he does host a thing called the Creators Hangout, and he does these shows. And what he does, he supports creators that are trying to get a lift up. And I've been on the show a couple of times, and thank you for that, Travis. And I'm also watch it because it's not too different from what you're doing. You try and give people a little lift. And I started to say, I've never really helped other people out, and I'm starting to benefit from that. I need to do something that helps other people a little.
Right.
So we started the YouTube channel, and in my case, it's not a live show. What we do is just a hair different. We pick a topic, something that we both really love to talk about. Like my most recent one was Greg Moquin from Sierra Nova Comics, and we did the top 11 fight scenes from movies, and it was so fun, right? And when people are really excited about something, you get their enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And then you get to the backstage of the show, and I say, "Hey, by the way, if you like stuff like this, you'd probably like Greg's new book." And then you go through all his links, and I show artwork from the project. And in my case, I put the music up and the artwork. That's why it's not live, because I add a lot of, I want to give it the feeling like you watch it once a week and it's like a show.
Right.
And and I sense that you're doing that too. And by the way, I just signed up with Pops, so you'll be able to see my show every Thursday night at 9:30.
That's awesome. Yeah. Glad to have you.
Yeah, man. And I tell you, you're on my list. Hey, listen, that is a great one. The Warrior Subway. This is exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. Yeah. So if you like stuff like that, and the idea is there's no wrong answers. We all just kind of chat about what we love, and it's been very successful, Paul. Now, what I mean by it's very successful, there's varying degrees of success. But I went from having nothing in the first 2 months. I've got 200 subscribers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And here's the thing. And I get, 50 or 60 views at least on all of them. Some of them are up in the 250s. So I know that probably sounds small, but for me, that's very good.
Right. I mean, anything that's adding up is definitely a good thing.
Right. And that tends to be customers.
Yeah.
And I always tell the guys that come on the show, the guys and girls, that, hey, everybody's welcome, and you're pretty much guaranteed I can get you 5 or 10 customers.
Right.
And if you're a guy at my level, 5 or 10 customers, hey, that makes a difference in the funding. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So we're having just a terrific time doing it. And if you'd like to see it, it is on the Madness. I'm give myself a quick plug. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
That's on the Comics Related Madness. It's Thursday nights at 9:30 Eastern time. And then it is on YouTube. My handle, what they call a YouTube handle now. I'm at Timothy Fling. So that's pretty easy to remember. Or if you like the title, it's called Holden's 11. My nickname used to be Holden, and it's a top 11 list. This one goes to 11.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're having just a ton of fun making it. It's been so great. And the creators that I've met, I always try and learn something from each person, right? Like a good example is, I'll talk about my last guest, who was Greg. And thanks, Pops. The thing about Greg that was cool is they do kind of a thing where it's like an online service for customers and creators. Like if you pay $5.99 a month or some very small amount, you get access to this huge digital library, and you can try all these books out.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, that's a great idea. And his company's called Sierra Nova Comics. And he also does once a year a virtual Comic-Con.
Oh,
It's right at Thanksgiving. So just a terrific job by those guys. And again, that's something I wouldn't have came up with on my own. So here's me being, just trying to give something back. Right. And I know it's not much, but man, you give a little something back, it tends to come back.
And the thing I think, and I've always told new creators this, is you learn from just about everybody, because in this industry, I don't think there's any one person that knows it all. So if you're talking and networking and making friends and camaraderie, I can't even pronounce it, but you get out there and you learn from just about everybody, the different ways that they're doing things, unique, your own spin on things. And that's one of the best things about the comic family, I think.
Yeah, and I also should give a quick shout out all the gang at the Madness. I know that you're pals with a lot of them too. The guys and girls over at the Madness have been terrific to me, and Pops in
Man.
particular. So he reached out to me this morning and he said something to the effect of, in my illustration here is sometimes you pick up things that you wouldn't have thought of, and it can help you to level up in your career. And admittedly, I'm one of the smaller guys.
Yeah.
But so they reach out to me like, well, hey, does anybody kind of know video editing? And I was like, wait a second, I kind of do now. So that's the next thing. I'm going to help in some small way with some editing. And
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm really excited to try it. And if you would have told me 3 years ago, here's where I'm going with this. Like, I'm consider myself a writer, right?
Right.
Well, so I write a first couple, and they didn't get off the ground too much, but I learned it, like you said.
Right.
And then I said, well, I'm going to do this first Kickstarter. And well, that was kind of a small one, but I learned it. Right.
Right.
And then I started making videos. And so inadvertently in 3 years, I've become a publisher, a podcaster, and now I'm going to be doing video editing. And it's all things that I never would have guessed that I had done. And it was never my dream to be podcaster, YouTuber, publisher, none of that stuff. But on the other hand, it's helping me to reach my audience and grow and kind of and hopefully help other people. It's something that if I could help in some way, I feel like that is the right move for me, because I don't want to be like just a taker or whatever. Right. Sometimes I kind of felt that way. And by the way, I'll say to any creator that's out there, I'm also what they call a digital swap partner.
Wow.
If you have a Kickstarter, shoot me a message. I'll give a free copy of anyone that wants my book. And basically what we do you do that on your books?
I've done that with a few, I think Carissa's campaign right now is going on, and she's got one of my books on her.
Yeah. I love Carissa, by the
way.
And, hey, there's a great example. She's kind of new and her Kickstarter is doing great.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody will disagree with me. She's a hell of a nice girl.
Yeah.
And a nice young lady. Maybe I shouldn't say girl in case that's not appropriate in some way, but she's a super nice person. Yes. And so I reached out. I was like, hey, we'll give them a free copy of my book. And now, of course, if someone backs my next Kickstarter, they'll have a copy of hers.
And it's great because if you have the digital PDFs, there's no real cost behind it. So it's all profit to the person running the Kickstarter, and it helps not only spread your name out there, but it helps them with their campaign.
They might, and that's my whole goal, right? They might see my book and be like, hey, well, I like this Fling character. Let's see what his next book is.
So it's a win-win kind of thing.
And it's like you said, it's easily deliverable to customers. And I've been working with other creators on this for about 1.5 years. I first got the idea from a fella by the name of Russell Nolte. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He's another great guy who helps the indie creators. And so now my package, if you back one of my books, it comes with 18 digital titles for free.
Wow.
And that was just by me offering people my book. And they tend to say, oh, if you give me yours, I'll give you one of mine too.
Yeah.
So, but it's a big, we call it the digital pantheon.
Yeah.
You get 18 books.
Yeah, it's a great deal, especially
and by the way,
when
I give that to anybody at any level. Like if you just do the $5 level, you still get all that.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a great way to get yourself out there. It's a great way to help the community. It's just great overall, I think. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that in the future because I signed my books on with ASAP. I mentioned that.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, and they're really focused on the digital stuff, so I don't know if I'm allowed to do that anymore. I know I definitely was doing that in the past with a lot of creators. And if I can do it in the future, I definitely want to. I try to help as much as I can, like with Carissa's campaign. I know I helped her set up a lot of it, put in some of the graphics and tiers and stuff because she didn't really know how to set up a Kickstarter. And, I'm always open, and I tell people this all the time, if you need help, come talk to me. If you need to find an artist, if you need to know how to learn how to script or, anything, my handle, my Twitter, come talk to me. I'm always willing to help. And that goes for creators, if there's anything I can help with, I definitely want to, because like I said, I am new and I got a lot of help. Whenever I found the madness, Pops helped me out such a great deal. I was in the middle of one of my campaigns and it went to like heck in a handbasket. And he really, really, I mean, just helped me out a great deal. So
Yeah.
I can't thank them enough. But I've had so much help that I try to give back as much as I can. Like you say, that's definitely one of the things that
Well,
everybody
you're
should do.
doing some things right, Paul, and I will tell
Thank you.
you specifically
Thank
what I mean by that. I unfortunately have not read your book yet. We're just kind of meeting each other for the
Right.
first time, but I'm aware of your press and I'm aware of what you're doing, and you got a great reputation in the community. And
Thank you.
I heard it's PTSD, right?
Yes.
Okay, I have heard of the book, and I'm looking forward to checking that out. So, did I understand correctly? Are you a veteran?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is PTSD related to the?
Yes. To
Okay.
veterans, it's a story about a veteran.
Okay.
So originally, and I don't really. I've got a guest coming in a few minutes, and he's probably going to talk about it a little bit more.
Oh, nice.
But the main reason I did it was because
Oh, this looks great, man. That looks great.
In the middle of the pandemic, it was stress to just about everybody, including me and my family, and I wanted to put something out there to kind of give a message to everybody who was hurting mentally.
Yeah.
You're not alone, kind of thing. There's help. Just go find it. And I was writing a different story, but me and my editor took a break on a Memorial Day, and we were talking about veterans who were impacted our lives. And after that day of me and my editor talking, I was like, I'm going at this all wrong. This is the biggest mental illness that I can bring awareness to. I should be writing. This story came to me that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote it. I had a lot of kickback because I wasn't a veteran, but to me, that underlining story of mental illness and, you aren't alone, find help if you really need to, kind of thing, is the reason I wrote it.
Well, yes. And that's where I was going with it. I have a lot of respect for that. And first of all, thank you for doing that. What's up, Brian? And I want to say, definitely thank you for doing that. I got a lot of respect for people that do that type of thing. And there's a lot of mental illness in the world right now. And it seemingly has gotten worse after COVID. And anything we can do that brings awareness to it, and even if it just helps a little, it's worth it. So I really, what I was trying to do was to say thank you here for what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. And like I said, it was an uphill battle. A lot of people told me it wasn't a comic book type of story, but I was like, I'm not really writing this to make $1 million. I want to write it, like I said, just a handout to people
from your heart.
And it was one of those things that I didn't expect to sell it. I was gonna kind of give it away with my flagship book, which was Bushibu, and it just kind of took on a life of its own.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with you. And the thing about mental illness is, how do I want to say this the right way? Because I'm a little older guy, and in our generation, mental illness was like a stigma, and you were afraid to talk about it. But we have to be able to talk openly about things, and now more than ever, we have to be kind and to approach this as something that is, like we said, we're all in this together. Even if it's just some small way, we have to try and help. And definitely. There's some people, I think, that are, since the pandemic, that are genuinely struggling. And people have things like divorce and the death of a loved one, and
and then people who caught COVID. My son caught COVID early on, and he was in his room basically isolated. I used to go sit in his doorway talking to him, telling him, hey, you're not going to give this to everybody in the family, you're not going to kill us all, kind of thing. It was a struggle just to get over that mentality that he had whenever he caught it, and a lot of people were that way.
How old's your son?
Right now he's 21. But at the time, it was 2 years ago, 18, 19.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And he was, in that last year of high school, and he was, like I said, worried that he was going to give it to all the other kids in the house and to me and his mother. And I was like, we're going to get through this. We need to be positive and talk about it. And that was definitely one of the reasons, like I said, I wanted to spotlight mental illness, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And you bring up a good point, because I've been thinking lately that maybe one of the things that I could do is to donate a percentage to a worthy charity, or I see people doing that, and I haven't really thought that through very far. I
Yeah,
don't even know what charity. Mass
Brad,
Venom,
how's
what's
it
up?
going? This is a friend of mine, Brad. He's
Hi, guys.
How are you?
he hosts Mass
I'm
Venom
good.
on Whatnot. But yeah, as you were talking about a charity, I actually want to host an auction that's here local here. I'm going to try to get a few creators together and do that in the next few months, just to give back, because the comic community has given me so much.
Yeah, Brian, good point. Americans are kind of going through something collectively. And we were talking the other day on one of the podcasts, and somebody said in the past, there have been a couple of traumatic events. And he used the example of 9/11, which, remember, it kind of brought us all together.
Yeah.
But then we had another traumatic event, which is COVID, and it kind of drove everybody apart. And we're not sure how to begin this healing process. And we know we need to do something, right?
How's it going? Yeah, and it was really that trying to open that conversation up. That was the main reason for this book that I wrote. Brad, we're talking about PTSD.
Oh, I might know a little bit of something about that.
Oh, are you on that book, Brian?
He's actually hosting the first exclusive of my book on his channel, Mass Venom, for Whatnot.
Oh, wow, great. I was telling Paul that's you guys have done a good job there. And I'll tell you what I mean by that is I actually haven't read it yet, but I'm aware of the press, and it is out there in the public zeitgeist, as it were, enough to where I've heard really positive things. Matter of fact, I was talking to Pops about that. I was like, because I was a little bit familiar with Paul before the show on account of this. So yeah, if there's anything I can do to help promote, I would definitely gladly do so, sir.
Well, and I usually don't promote my book that much on my show. That's why Brad came in, because he's hosting that show with that exclusive.
Oh, wow.
That beautiful black and white version right there.
That's the one I saw. By the way, I love stuff like that. That is really cool.
Yeah.
This is actually the foil. There's the Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then
I love version covers.
Here's the metal.
Nice.
Yeah.
That looks great.
So these are extremely limited. The metals are limited to 10. The foils are limited to 20. We have other guys.
I just want to say those are pretty and everything, but I still love the red cover, dude. That was the one that got my attention. That was what drew me to that book, Jeff. Leave Paul alone, dude.
So these are all of the guys that are running the shows.
Gotcha.
So it's all on the back of this specific book. So we have Morpheus.
I mentioned you need to bring that show to the network.
Pops is always plugging. Gotta love it.
Hey,
is that the Muppet anyway? Is that the furry-faced orange Muppet? Haha, you wish, Big IV. Hard to come by, and of course me, Massvin.
I know, right? Good help is so hard to find.
So these are all the shows that Whatnot that will have them. Some of them are already starting to sell them now, but I'm going to be doing this on the 18th, and I'm guessing that Paul, you will be here.
Yeah, I definitely plan on being there. We'll talk more about that later. But
yeah, right.
I definitely wanted to introduce you to Timothy, Brad. Timothy's got a great book out. What issue are you on?
Well, I got a couple of titles. The one that just came out is this one. Matter of fact, it's Water Wars 2288, and I got a hollow foil going too.
Nice.
That is beautiful.
Yeah,
I do like the foils on these covers.
And this one has a chrome logo. I got a chrome logo too.
Wow.
See how it's like the robots, their parts like shine kind of.
Give me a little background about that.
It is a collection of science fiction short stories in a post-apocalyptic future where people are fighting over scarce water.
Oh, nice. Water World reinvented.
Well, yeah, that's actually the reverse. Remember, in Waterworld, they had
that's
water.
Right.
So it'd be the opposite of that. Yeah,
I got you.
But the idea is, we had a fan say to us, What they are is they're science fiction short stories, and each one is designed sort of like an episode of The Twilight Zone. What I mean by that, it's a short story, and it always has a twist at the end.
Nice.
Yeah, and they tend to be female protagonists. And I was telling Paul, if you want to buy just one issue, you buy number 4. Well, it's a story in there. You don't need to read the other ones. But if you like this kind of thing, they are all connected. Like if you go back and read them, oh, so that's why they're fighting over that. Yeah, that's why. Oh, so that's why she has one arm. Yeah, that's why. Like it's all kind of explained, but you don't have to. Like I tell people, you remember when Star Wars came out, you know, that it was episode 4. It came out right in the middle, right? And they didn't explain to you what a Wookiee was and why the rebellion was fighting against it. They didn't explain anything. It was just a story, and you jumped in and enjoyed it. But if you want to, of course, you can go back and learn everything about the lore. We're big on lore, and it comes with maps, and we also write our own theme songs for the series.
I love those maps that you showed in those mini prints that you sent out with those. Those are great.
Yeah, they're Chrome enhanced maps, is what.
Oh,
they are.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that's something we do for the backers, and then you know, I'm primarily a science fiction guy. I was kind of saying this to Paul. When you tell people that you write comics, right away they picture Batman hitting the Joker, right? And I say, well, that's not at all like what I'm doing, so I better explain it a little bit. They're kind of along the lines of like if you like stories by Richard Matheson or Ray Bradbury or Rod Serling, they're short stories is what they are.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it looks great. And so are you in the middle of the campaign or when?
My next one, this is what you're seeing there. That's the fulfillment for number 4, which actually it's still shipping this week. So that one's concluded. But my next one is coming up here in March, and that is a cryptid-based science fiction series called Call of the Cryptid, and that'll launch on March 15th.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so we'll have... Yeah, it's funny, like we were saying earlier, so I sort of accidentally became a publisher, right? Like, again, I'm a writer. I never wanted to be a publisher. But now at this point, I got 11 books out, and we're getting ready to launch a new title. I'm cooking along. I'm doing better than some publishers are. So I'm not even sure if I will. I do release the short stories to be published nationally. I'm with Antarctic Press.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ben Dunn.
Yeah, I love Ben Dunn, man.
I had him on as a guest of one of the first few episodes. Great legendary guy.
Yeah, and again, another example, right, of somebody that's just been so great to me. I feel like I need to do something better. Matter of fact, if you are so inclined, our current book is available in comic stores. You can order it, which is The Hunchback of Theological Quadrant 19. Yeah, it's a robot hunchback story, and that'll be in Planet Comics 19.
Yeah,
and that's a 20 page or something like that. It's a short story, and we got the cover and everything again. So I've been published over there 4 times, I think it is, something like that. Yeah, I saw that, Pops. Yeah, Max just signed on.
Yes, Max just signed on with his Mary Machine Gun.
Yeah, good for him.
So man, so happy for him.
Yeah, so it's going to be me, Max, and the guy from Niobe.
I got to admit, I came this close to getting signed on with them. Came this close.
Well, it's a little different for me because what I do in my titles, it's always, a couple of stories in each issue. But see, I break them up, the stories and then submit to anthologies. And it's one of the ways that I sort of build my name, you see.
But that's awesome. I love Antarctic Press. I love Ben Dunn. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he's been good to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't be, again, I can't be happier for Max signing on with Mary Machine Gun over there. That's great to hear.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's the year of the indie comics. And the reason why I say that is, there's lots of folks who, maybe this is a better topic for another show, but there's lots of people who just don't love modern comics.
Well, and I tell Brad this a few times. I'm like, if you host some of these indie comics on Whatnot, it's one of those things that could be blown up real fast because a lot of these indie comics are getting signed, like Max, like you are to Antarctic Press. I just got signed on with Blood Moon for a new monthly coming out in August. So, I mean, nice. It's one of those things.
Congrats, brother.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things that a lot of indie people are getting into that mainstream, but you get so much great stuff and with that source material that they do before they go out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I always tell people, and of course, your mileage may vary, right? This is just one man's opinion. But I always, there's a lot of guys who say, hey, well, I write for the teen market or this market or that market. And I always say, man, write something that you just really love and that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because chances are, if you really love it, other people will sense your passion and your enthusiasm and they will start to follow it. When we started the Water Wars series, it was like, really, we only had the first issue, but the response was so good. Nobody told me to stop. So I kept going. Yeah. And it'll be number 5 this year. And every one just about has been anthologized somewhere out there in the world. Yeah. And the thing that's cool, especially about guys like Ben, and every company is different, so double check this. Right. But they still let you retain the rights to all your stories, so you can reprint them. You can do it. I mean, it's only good for you, and good for the market. So,
I'm sorry, Jeff's writing stuff down.
I see.
He's always picking on me, like I said. There, I mentioned you, Jeff. I mentioned you. But Jeff's great guy. Like, he did that cover for me for PTSD. He did a cover for me for Cryptic Haze, and he's laying down pencils for that a new book for me as well. Jeff's a great guy. But yeah, I mean, I've seen your campaigns out there. I've definitely seen some of your work, and it's great to see some of these indie people. I love the attitude, and like I say, being out there to help other people and hearing the stories that they're in the same boat that you are, it's great to hear.
Yeah. And like I say, most of the indie creators that I've met have been pretty cool. Like, you hear some of the conversations about how this person's mad at that person or whatever the drama might be. And actually Pops mentioned this too. Look, if you just go into it with a great attitude, you're probably going to be okay. And, I've got along with everybody. So like, I didn't, and part of that is because I sort of avoid that stuff.
Right.
I mean? Like sometimes somebody will say something like, "Oh, I'm not touching this one." You know what I mean? Like I know when to stay away from what might be considered some to be controversial topics. And in my case, look, my stories tend to be about robots, so I don't have any, controversial material or anything like that.
And most of my stuff hadn't been that way, except for PTSD. Again, some people have told me that it was a great thing, and some people was like, why are you kind of doing something that's not an average kind of comic book? But
Paul, listen, I've heard great things about it, and I got to chime in here. The things that I've heard about how it was such a memorable book, how it was different from everybody was doing, and I've seen some of the cover images that Brad showed, and that's why I was excited to come on this show because I wanted to talk to you about it. When you market yours, how do you do the marketing for your Kickstarters?
So originally, I hired a marketing campaign for my first one because I had no earthly idea what to do. After that, it was I learned what they were basically doing was posting on every social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Currently, I'm doing some TikToks. Obviously, I'm doing this show, and before I did this show, I did a show on Comic Crusaders every Friday. That kind of got canceled because of their time frame kind of thing, but I wanted to host a show of, like I said, helping creators out. So that's why I wanted to host this one. Other than that, it's really been marketing through other campaigns as well, trying to help other creators and saying, hey, I'll help you out if you kind of show my book or let other people know about it kind of thing. But it's really been word of mouth for me mostly.
Yeah. Well, it's working. Like I say, I heard of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And this book, like I said, it's really taken off on its own as well. PTSD. Brad, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I was just going to tell Timothy how we wound up meeting. So we were in Dallas last year at the Fan Expo, and to give you a little backdrop of me, I'm a nurse that works in a jail setting, so I deal with PTSD and mental illness constantly. So when I saw it, all I had to do was see those 4 letters on that book, and I told Paul, I was like, I'm in. Like I don't even care what's inside. It took me how long did it take me to read the book, Paul? I mean, it took me forever. But once I cracked it and I read it, I was like, oh Jesus! Like this is like being in the mind of somebody that has PTSD. The art was drawn to where it seems like you're in the mind. It was overall the book is amazing. Like it was well put together. It was well, the cover art was great. The story was written great. The problem is I'm about to put Paul in the headlock to get the second book. So, and we talked about that. But anyway, it's really a great book. That's how I got locked in on it. And I told them, I'm like, I want to do an exclusive. I want to be able to take the cover and switch it, kind of keep the background, keep everything about it, but I wanted to, change the color format of the book and take the words off of it so that the art really shines through. And boy, did we hit a home run with this one. So, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to get this stuff out here for Paul and Jeff. I have like I showed you, the five of us, Morpheus and Haha, they do charity shows for mental illness. And Morpheus is this dude right here. He's a veteran. And Haha's really good at charity, and so is Hard to Come By. He does stuff. They're actually doing a huge show tomorrow for the veterans. Right off the top of my head, something initiative, and I think it's the Veterans Initiative. And they're doing such a wonderful job that I wanted to bring 4 more people in on this and really get this spread out. Now, these guys, Hard to Come By, Haha, Big IV, and Morpheus, are all much bigger of a show than I am. This is a 10-year project for me. So I needed to bring in people that I know that can put the book in front of hundreds of people. And so that's why these guys were invited to be a part of this book, because they have the people, they have the eyeballs, so to speak, and they're great people, and they've done great work. So I had to bring them all in. It's just, I'm so grateful that these guys chose and accepted my invitation to do this immediately. They without hesitation, these guys were great. So yeah, this book is going to go take off. No doubt. It's going to take off. I can't even keep up with it because I'm a full-time nurse with 3 kids and I'm trying to run this business. So it's easy and then it's hard. But I will say that I'm uberly excited to get this pushed out on Saturday. The book's already selling well on some of these other guys' shows, and they're just selling the virgins. So we haven't even touched the foil or the metal yet, and that stuff it's gonna be nice.
Nice. Well, congrats on that.
Thank you. Yeah,
very much appreciate that.
Very beautiful book, and it's a great opportunity. I tell all the new creators, I'm like, don't ever close your door on any type of opportunity. Whatnot is a great platform out there, and if you can get into with some of these sellers, you can get some eyes on your book. There's unique ways to do it. If you can get with the seller and get them to get an exclusive, that's an awesome thing to do. But even just getting your book out there in front of their audience helps a great deal. I'm a big fan of getting my books into LCSs because I try to do that as much as possible. But Whatnot is an amazing platform, so don't ever sleep on it.
It's definitely bigger than an LCS. I will tell you that.
Yes.
The ability to be able to get eyes to a book is a lot faster. So
I always tell people I got a 3-4 prong approach whenever it comes to it. It's a platform like Kickstarter, it's LCSs, it's Whatnot, it's conventions. These are the things that get your books out there, and you can get out there and meet the fans and talk to them about your books. You're going to do well.
I'm going to check that out. I like I say, I'm always here to pick up new techniques and new things, and I'm going to check it out, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I've never used Whatnot, so you think it's a good, effective sales platform?
I really do. I mean, especially, to me, eBay's fine, but the fact of eBay is you're not exactly showing that book. if you get along with a seller, because there's tons of sellers out there, if you can get into with the seller who can show your book and demonstrate it to their customers, and if they got a good customer, this is a great avenue to go.
Nice.
Yeah, you can believe me, if you reach one of these guys that have major eyes on their show, I promise you, you'll find somebody that has the interest that you do. So
yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt.
Gotcha.
All right, guys, we're hitting the hour mark. Tim, would you like to let everyone know where you're at? What's going on?
Thank you. Sure. My name's Timothy Fling. The easiest place to find me lately is on Facebook. I also have my website, which is earthdogstudios.com.
And Brad.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to let everyone know who you are and what's going on?
My name is Brad Gwynn. I am AKA Mass Venom. You can follow me at MassVenom93. That's my Instagram, or just send me an email at admin@massvenom.com.
All right. And I'm Paul Gomez. I'm Paul Gomez 790 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You ever need any help, want to talk, just send me a line, or you can catch me next week right here on The Madness, reality of publishing comics. Thank you guys for being here. Y'all have
Thanks for having me on.
setting sun, but I'll never run. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. I will stay and fight as long as I'm alive. I'm a dead man walking. I'm a dead man walking. Till I die. And kill till I die.
How do you end this thing? How do you put the where's the brakes on this bus? I forgot.
Jazz hands. Jazz hands and brakes.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit CB